In today's English lesson, you are going to learn about a presidential tradition that you may not have known about.
On the desk? I don't know. Oh,
What's in there?
thank you, Peter. It could have been years before we found it. Wow, thank you.
Can you read that on the outside?
Maybe we should all read it together.
Let's read it.
Well, maybe I'll read it first and then make that determination.
Sounds great.
I may not have seen this for months.
Right now, I am filming this in my classroom. All of the students have gone home, and I have a little extra time. In today's English lesson, we will watch a news clip together, and then I will come back and teach all of the difficult vocabulary, all of those English idioms, and of course, those pesky English phrasal verbs. You will learn words like successor, pomp and circumstance. You will learn what an all-out blitz is. You will learn what an executive order is. You will learn what birthright citizenship means. We need to talk about January 6th. How about this English phrasal verb, handed down? We will discuss the ban on TikTok. We will talk about the president's office, which is called the Oval Office. We will talk about a letter that was left for President Trump in the Resolute Desk. This English lesson will be perfect for anyone studying for the IELTS or TOEFL exam. Maybe you want to have better conversations in English. Maybe you are thinking about moving to the United States, or maybe you just want to know a little bit more about American history. Before we get too far, can I please ask for you to hit the like button? And if this is your first time here, please don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another English lesson. Let's watch the clip together, and then I will come back and teach you some English.
Amid the pomp and circumstance of President Trump's first day back in office, an all-out blitz enacting his agenda.
This is a hell of a day we're having, right?
Trump signing an avalanche of executive actions. It includes declaring a national emergency at the southern border, ending birthright citizenship, requiring the government to recognize only two genders, and pardoning defendants charged in the January 6th attack of the Capitol.
For each of the terms we discussed today, I will have a picture for you. I will have the official definition, and I will use it in a sentence. Successor is the first one. Successor. It means a person who takes over a job or position after someone else. Joe Biden was Donald Trump's successor as president. We had Donald Trump as president, and then Joe Biden took over. And just yesterday, Joe Biden left the White House. Donald Trump took back over. How about this sentence? But now Trump is Joe Biden's successor. The news report mentioned pomp and circumstance. Let's talk about what that means. A lot of formal ceremony and celebration. The inauguration of the president is full of pomp and circumstance. Take a look at that picture. You can see a man is dressed up in a tuxedo, and it looks like champagne is being poured. I think those two things would count as pomp and circumstance.
Amid the pomp and circumstance of President Trump's first day back in office, an all-out blitz enacting his agenda.
This is a hell of a day we're having, right?
Next, we have an all-out blitz, a strong and focused effort to achieve something. The government launched an all-out blitz to fight drug abuse. Take a quick look at that picture. I have a sentence for you. I got ready for the test with an all-out blitz study session. I can imagine that person stayed up all night studying for their test. They talked about President Trump's agenda. Let's talk about what an agenda is. A list of things to be done or goals to achieve. The president's agenda includes improving the economy and immigration. A boss might have an agenda for the meeting. It's basically a list of things they want to accomplish before the end of the meeting.
Amid the pomp and circumstance of President Trump's first day back in office, an all-out blitz enacting his agenda.
This is a hell of a day we're having, right?
Trump signing an avalanche of executive actions. It includes declaring a national emergency at the southern border, ending birthright citizenship, requiring the government to recognize only two genders, and pardoning defendants charged in the January 6th attack of the Capitol.
Next, we have avalanche. In the news clip, it is used as an idiom, but a real avalanche is when you have a mountain with a lot of snow and all of that snow starts to tumble down that mountain. It can be pretty dangerous. But if you use it as an idiom, the definition might be more like this: a large amount of something happening all at once. After the president's speech, there was an avalanche of media coverage. Probably a lot of reporters were trying to ask him questions. Right when President Trump took office, there was a lot of talk about executive orders. Those are official rules made by the president that have the power of law. The president signed several executive orders on climate change. Now, when a president signs an executive order, they are just working by themselves. It is not as strong as if they involve Congress. Look at that sentence at the bottom. Executive orders can be undone as soon as there is another president. When President Biden first took office, he signed a lot of executive orders. When President Trump took office, he undid a lot of Biden's executive orders. For example, President Trump signed an executive order getting rid of birthright citizenship. Let's talk about what that means. The right to be a citizen of a country if you were born there. In the US, people born on American soil have birthright citizenship. We have an amendment in our Constitution that is very powerful, way more powerful than an executive order. So I'm sure the courts will be challenging that executive order. It might get changed pretty soon. But in the United States, even if your parents aren't American citizens, but the baby is born in the United States, they automatically become a citizen. I'm at home now editing this video, and some recent news has stated that 18 states have already filed a lawsuit challenging the executive order that President Trump signed yesterday having to deal with birthright citizenship. So there is a really good chance that the Supreme Court will have to hear this case. It should be interesting, and if any further news comes out, I'll let you know. President Trump also said, according to the federal government, there are only two genders. That means the concept that there are only two biological sexes, male and female. The school taught about the idea of two genders in health class. It is a controversial topic. I don't want to talk too much about it. I guess let's just move on from this one.
Trump signing an avalanche of executive actions. It includes declaring a national emergency at the southern border, ending birthright citizenship, requiring the government to recognize only two genders, and pardoning defendants charged in the January 6th attack of the Capitol.
There was also talk of pardoning the J6 or the January 6th criminals, people who committed crimes. January 6th is when people broke into the Capitol building in the United States. Let's get the official definition. January 6th, or J6, refers to the events of January 6th, 2021, when rioters stormed the U.S. Capitol. Many people watched the news about the events of January 6th with shock. I remember for some reason I was not in school that day and I was watching everything happen live. Yeah, I was shocked to see American citizens breaking windows and entering the Capitol building. Now, President Trump says he will pardon the J6, he calls them hostages, but they are in jail right now or prison right now. A pardon is when a government forgives someone for their crime and removes their punishment. So now that President Trump has pardoned the people involved in January 6th, they will be getting out of jail soon. Did you also see in the last 15 minutes of President Biden's presidency, he pardoned like a lot of members of his family? Let's look at a sentence that uses pardon. The president gave a pardon to the man, so he did not have to go to jail. I recently did an English lesson about President Biden pardoning his son. I will leave a link to that at the end of this English lesson.
And pardoning defendants charged in the January 6th attack at the Capitol.
So this is January 6th. These are the hostages. Approximately 1,500 for a pardon.
Trump also saying he will order a 25% tariff on goods coming from Mexico and Canada starting February 1st. Experts warning the added tax could get handed down to Americans, raising prices at the store.
Tariffs have been big news in the United States. That is a tax on goods brought into a country. So any goods coming from Canada or Mexico will now have a 25% tax. Americans will have to pay extra to get goods from Canada and Mexico. The government placed a tariff on imported steel to protect local businesses. It's designed so Americans will buy more things made in the United States. We have an English phrasal verb here, handed down, passed from one person or generation to another. The Resolute Desk. We will talk more about this desk in a minute. The Resolute Desk was handed down through several presidents. In the picture, it looks like one brother is handing down clothes to another brother. Maybe the older brother cannot wear the clothes anymore. They are too small, so he is giving them to his little brother. My brother is younger than me, so he often got my hand-me-down clothes. Clothes that are handed down to a younger sibling or a younger cousin might be called hand-me-downs.
Trump also saying he will order a 25% tariff on goods coming from Mexico and Canada starting February 1st. Experts warning the added tax could get handed down to Americans, raising prices at the store.
We're thinking in terms of 25% on Mexico and Canada because they're allowing vast numbers of people. Canada's a very bad abuser also. Vast numbers of people to come in and fentanyl to come in.
They mention fentanyl. Let's talk about what fentanyl is. A very strong and dangerous drug used to relieve pain. But some people will take too much fentanyl and it could kill them. The rise in fentanyl overdoses has become a major health crisis. When you take too much of a drug, it is called an overdose.
Trump signing an executive order to delay the ban on TikTok for 75 days in hopes of giving the app's Chinese owner enough time to sell off its U.S. assets.
Wow. Thank you.
During the Oval Office signings, a moment of surprise. Trump finding a letter left in the Resolute Desk by former President Biden.
TikTok was also mentioned. There could be a ban on TikTok here in the United States, but a ban is a law or rule stopping the use of TikTok or pretty much anything. You could have a ban on fentanyl. Some states discussed a ban on TikTok because of privacy concerns. The states would not have control of this. Washington, D.C. would. would.
Trump signing an executive order to delay the ban on TikTok for 75 days in hopes of giving the app's Chinese owner enough time to sell off its U.S. assets.
The American government is wanting TikTok to sell off its assets to a company that is not from China. To sell off assets means to sell items or property, usually for financial reasons. This is not for financial reasons, it's for security reasons. Some people in the American government are worried that the Chinese government would be stealing information from American citizens. The company that owns TikTok, ByteDance, needs to sell off assets to a company that is not Chinese.
Oh, thank you.
During the Oval Office signings, a moment of surprise. Trump finding a letter left in the Resolute Desk by former President Biden.
Maybe we should all read it together.
Let's read it.
Well, maybe I'll read it first and then make that determination.
Sounds great.
The Oval Office. We saw President Trump signing executive orders in the Oval Office. It is simply the president's office in the White House. The president met world leaders in the Oval Office. President Biden left a letter to President Trump in the Resolute Desk. First, let's talk about what the Resolute Desk is. It's a large, historic desk in the Oval Office used by the president. The president signed the new law at the Resolute Desk. Now, resolute has a meaning in English, and it means when you promise to do something and never stop trying. She was resolute in her decision to learn English, no matter how hard it was. And the first time a letter was left for an incoming president was back in 1989. Ronald Reagan left a letter in the Resolute Desk to his vice president, George H.W. Bush, who was just elected president. The first president to receive the Resolute Desk was a president named Rutherford B. Hayes. Yeah, I'm not kidding. His name was Rutherford B. Hayes. And it comes from a ship, a British ship, called the HMS Resolute. The British were using that ship to explore the Arctic. It got stuck in ice, and eventually an American ship helped free the Resolute. Some of the wood from that ship was made into that desk. Queen Victoria gave President Hayes that desk in 1880. President John F. Kennedy was the first president to put the Resolute Desk in the Oval Office.
Oh, thank you.
During the Oval Office signings, a moment of surprise. Trump finding a letter left in the Resolute Desk by former President Biden.
Maybe we should all read it together.
Let's read it.
Well, maybe I'll read it first and then make that determination.
Sounds great.
And we are already seeing lawsuits challenging Trump's move to end birthright citizenship in a lawsuit filed overnight. It calls the order flagrantly illegal and an attempt to redefine a right enshrined in the very fabric of our country.
In the news clip, they also mention flagrant. Let's talk about what flagrant means. Clearly wrong or offensive. The politicians' flagrant disregard for the rules caused outrage. And I do have a picture of a basketball game for flagrant because a really bad foul in basketball is called a flagrant foul. Take a look at that basketball player. He is basically slapping the other player in the face. It is clearly wrong. Congratulations on making it to the end of another English lesson. If you are looking for more English, right there is a lesson I did about President Biden pardoning his son. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time.